I want to do another quick little demo showing you how the spline effector can be used and then how we're going to apply it to our snake. So what we're going to do is go here to the model tab and let's go down the Z, which is right there. And I'm just going to make a little bit of a disc like this. And then we'll just extend it way out, and that's it. And then I'm going to also choose center selected all, and let's get to our polygon mode, all. Okay, hit the tab key so it can deform nicely. We'll jump back to animate. All right, let's take a look at the size of this thing. This is kind of important. Now I'm just going to count. We have a 500 millimeter grid, so 1 meter, 2, 3, so it's about 6 meters. You can also go up here to edit and view, and look at the ruler tool, and you can measure it yourself. So let's go here to a top view, control space, and you can always just measure it like that. Snapping comes on and snaps right together, so just over 6 meters. You can also look at the dimensions tool, which is really nice, and it's exactly 6.5 meters. So that works really well. So just something if you want to be more exact, turn those tools on. All right, so we're 6.5 meters. Why is that important? Well, when we get over to our spline effector, we need to determine the size when we create it. So this mesh we'll call just tube, like this. And then I want a spline deformer. So again, in the deformers tab, under the animate tab, we'll hit spline. And remember, our tube is selected first. When that pops up, you get a little dialog here. Create a spline. We have the number of points we're going to use in the spline, and then the length. Well, the length is 6.5 meters, 6.5. Okay, and I built it down the Z. You can see the X right back there. So just in case you weren't sure, look at your legend here. My object is going this way. You can see the blue handle right there. You can see the icon representing Z right there. So we want it down to Z, 6.5. And for the number, let's just choose 6. It's kind of a lot, but might be okay. We're going to use more for our snake. All right, and then we're going to click OK. Now what happens is you get a 6.5 meter spline, but it builds from 0 out. And that's okay. If we had moved our object, it would line up, or we can just move these. So let's jump into setup mode real quick. Now setup mode allows you to go and make changes to these splines, as well as our points when we get down here to our joint system. And it allows us to make these changes without affecting the object. Essentially turns off the setup, turns off the effect while you're in setup mode. So I can just take all these locators like this, press my command W to move it down like that, and then deselect and turn off our setup. Shift A will bring it to view, and this is now added to the tube. You see the locators. Now the locators are just reference points we're going to pull around. But notice from the tube there's a little plus mark. Open that up. There's a spline effector in there. Go to our deformation tab, and there is the spline added there. Well, what can we do with this? Fun stuff. That's what we can do. So I'm going to select this last one here, press my W command for transform, and look what happens. We can literally just come in here and adjust this as we want. See where I'm going? Okay, so fun stuff. Well, what happens if we take our tube itself and move that? So let's just do that. Huzzah, as Mr. Brad says. I've been looking for a feature like this in 3D programs for years. There's so many things that I've needed to use this for. Of course, just animating snakes and worms and ropes, but think about motion graphics. I've had to animate ribbons, that need to tool around. And, for years I used Lightwave, and Lightwave was a great alternative because what I could do is create a bone structure that bent in the shape I needed. And then we created a long morph for the object, and the morph was just really point A to point B. And then when we did the morph, it fell through the bones and gave us the same kind of look. But boy, isn't this a lot nicer? And then you can really just, as you're animating that, move these. You can keyframe those over time. So you could be animating your object, and then you can be animating those splines. So it's that simple a setup. All right, so I've shown you this. Let's now apply it to our snake.